All right. So, as we prepare for this Tensegrity class, it can be really helpful to have a folded up blanket, something like that nearby that you can use to prop up your pelvic girdle. And you can just have it set next to your mat where it's within reach. The other thing that you might find nice, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, we're just going to, using the blanket. And we can start, before we even lie down on our mats, start in a seated form and allow yourself a couple moments here, maybe gazing downward, maybe closing your eyes, but giving yourself some time to scan through your body and notice what sensations stand out to you. Notice how you might describe your energy level right now, how you might describe your emotional experience. And know that whatever comes up as you are scanning is feedback. There's no failure involved, no matter what it is that comes up. It's all just feedback. And from here, we might turn awareness over to the breath. Perhaps noticing where it is, how it is within your body at this moment. And maybe finding a little bit deeper of breath. Bringing it deeper into the abdomen and exhaling more fully, feeling everything draw inward. You might bring your hands either to your opposite kind of collarbone, shoulders, or same side, whatever feels more comfortable. Just so that as you inhale and exhale, you feel the rise and fall of your chest, that top to bottom lift and lower that happens with every breath cycle. You can bring your hands down to the sides of your rib basket. On your inhale, feeling how your hands move further apart. On your exhale, feeling how they move closer together. Noticing the side to side expansion and contraction of the breath. And then you might bring one hand to your back, and it can be the back of your hand, whatever's comfortable. One hand to your belly. And feel your breath here. This is the hardest place to feel it, especially on the backside of your body. And maybe you can feel it ever so subtly. And then hands can release down to your legs. And here we can take a couple breaths, trying to notice top to bottom, side to side, front to back movement that happens with the breath. Maybe picturing like a balloon filling up with air inside your abdomen. And as you exhale, releasing some air from that balloon. While we sit here for a couple more breaths, I'd like to share with you an Eric Shipman quote. He says, "Love is letting someone be who they are." Love is letting someone be who they are. You might notice what comes to mind when you hear those words. There's a chance that it might feel of interest to think of yourself here. Do you let yourself be who you are? Do you engage in the active sense of love toward yourself in that way? And as we move throughout this practice, we'll have many opportunities to come back to that. Moments to notice if it feels like movement is what's best or stillness is what's best. And can we let ourselves honor that, independent of what the facilitator is doing on the screen, independent of what anyone else might be doing? Can we honor what arises in our own bodies? So as you perhaps feel ready, you can lower yourself down onto your mat. Legs can stay bent, and you can take a moment maybe to wiggle legs side to side. Maybe notice your breath in that same felt sense, that really expansive in every direction inhale, and the evenly contracting from every direction exhale. And you can step your feet about as wide as your mat, letting your knees fall in toward each other. Let all of the energy in your body settle into your feet, to your pelvis, to your back, your shoulders, the back of your head, whatever part of your arms are in contact with the mat. And know that this is a place you can always return to. You're always welcome to come back to this form. We'll refer to it as our constructive rest pose. But if for now you're interested in finding some movement, you might bring your legs up over you, keeping a bend in the knees above hips more or less, insides of the legs zipped up. And there's an invitation here to notice your pelvis, your shoulders, and the back of your head, those 3 points, those 3 curves. Notice how they're in contact with the ground. And you might extend your legs any amount and then bring your knees back in. And perhaps as you find this movement, you again become aware of those 3 curves, keeping them in contact with the ground. And there's an option to include the arms. In stillness, it would be tented fingers up over your head, elbows pointed up toward the ceiling. And if you'd like to move the arms, you can bring palms together. And the next time your knees are drawn in, bring your hands down toward your knees. And then the next time your legs extend, extend your arms as well. This is a movement that you might choose to link with your breath. For me, it feels kind of nice to exhale as I curl in and inhale as I extend. And this movement can be fast or slow, it can be big or small. Pay attention to those 3 curves on the back side of your body. Can they be any heavier, any more still? And if you're still finding this movement, you might continue for 3, 2, and 1. Gently release back to the mat, feet wide. Knees might move side to side, or they might fall in toward one another. Take a couple of breaths, noticing how that first span of movement felt. And remembering that you're always welcome to stay here or to return here at any point. If you do feel interested in finding more movement, from here we're going to bring hands behind the head. And take a moment to curl the shoulders up with feet landed, feeling the core, maybe create some tension. And then gently lower back down, hands can release. We'll draw the knees back up. Hands can cup the knees and we can bring them over toward one armpit, away from us through center, over toward the other armpit. There's an option to keep your hands where they are on your knees, or to release the hands down to your sides, continuing the movement with your legs on their own. There's also an invitation here to potentially include movement of the arms, acting as though you're holding a big beach ball and that's what your knees are having to move around as they go through center. And you could lower the beach ball to whatever side the legs are away from. Check back in with your pelvis, your shoulders, your head. Are those three curves still heavy on the mat? And it might feel nice to add some movement of your head. So if you're interested in that, you'd move your head to look the same direction as your legs are going. Some people like to add a little straightening motion of the legs when they're in closer to the body, near each armpit. Some people like to keep the legs straight the entire time. So you're welcome to experiment with all these different options. Choosing, again, whatever feels truly best in your body, not what anyone else is doing. And knowing that you can always make the movement faster or slower, bigger or smaller. We might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Gently release everything back down to the mat, letting heaviness come back over your body. Letting yourself take a couple breaths, maybe knees falling toward each other in that constructive rest form. And if you feel ready to find some movement again, we're going to interlace fingers at the base of the skull, just as we did. As you curl your shoulders up, create a little resistance between your head, like the very base of your skull, and your hands, so that maybe your neck feels a little more integrated. Keep your left foot planted. We're going to kick the right foot out. Holding some tension here. The leg might be just nearly straight, it might be totally straight, it might be very bent. It can be kicked out in any sort of direction, just keeping hips, shoulders down on the mat, and this time the left foot on the mat. Feel your breath here, maybe noticing how it's impacted by this form. And gently step the right foot down. We're going to switch. Kick the left foot out. And if it feels like it needs something different, give it something different. Otherwise, match what you did on the other side. Notice your breath. And as you feel ready, release the left foot down. Release your head. Take a breath here. And then from here, there is a few options for hands. If you're interested in giving your diaphragm a little bit of a massage, you might work your fingers underneath your ribs, somewhere on the front side of your body. It can be way down at the front edges where your ribs are lowest. It might be up a little bit more toward the center. Whatever feels like a good purchase point for you, feeling your fingers massage out your diaphragm. And then we'll lift the right leg up. And from here, we'll lower it down. And then lift. And then lower. And this can be a very controlled movement. Or you can add some momentum in. I like to keep a little bit of a bend in my leg to more consciously soften my bigger muscles and put some of my smaller muscles to work. And so that might feel of interest to you. If it feels more supportive to engage your larger muscles, then you're welcome to do that as well. Notice your breath with your fingers by your diaphragm. You're probably not able to breathe quite as deep, but perhaps you're still able to notice that radial expansion and contraction. And you might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Release your right foot down. We'll settle into that foot and lift the left leg up, going straight to the other side. Again, finding those lowers and lifts. Straightening the leg whatever amount, using whatever momentum you want. Notice your breath. Notice your diaphragm here. Maybe pushing up against your fingers, you feel it. And we'll continue this for 3, 2, 1. Gently release your left leg down. From here, we're going to straighten the right arm out up above us, and we'll roll over to the right side. Your hand can cradle your head, or you can lay your right ear on your bicep, more likely. I'm going to move my blanket so it's a little bit easier to see. From here, step your left foot back, and you can step it as far up and back as you can for a moment, pointing the knee out to the far end of your mat, maybe stretching a little bit through the front side of that leg, through that hip flexor. And then go ahead and plant the foot where it can more comfortably land. From here, the right leg, it can be straightened or it can be bent any amount. We're going to lift on a diagonal as the left knee is going towards something that's back behind the right knee is going towards something back behind our left shoulder. And it can take a moment to kind of find your balance on your right side. But once you do find your balance, think of the entire right side of your body plus your left foot being very heavy into the mat, so that this movement is truly isolated into your right leg. And if you'd like to work the arm into this movement, as your right leg lowers to the mat, pause there, opening your left arm back behind you. And then when your right leg is going to lift, your left arm crosses in front. So it's kind of like they go away from each other and toward midline, away and toward. Notice if there are any adjustments you can make that feel supportive here. Is there an adjustment that allows you to stay more within the realm of ease? And you might continue for 3, 2, 1, soften down. From here, bring your right arm way out in front of you. Stack your left leg atop your right. Stack your left hand above your right. Reach your left fingertips past your right, and then begin to circle that hand, allowing your fingers to stay in contact with the mat as much as possible. It'll probably be the fingertips in front of you, and then your arm will flip and it'll be your knuckles behind you. And notice what sensations come up as you move through this circle here. And then become very heavy in the right side of your body, noticing that you can't remain heavy and have your knuckles drag. So your circles are probably a little more lifted off of the mat for the majority of the circle. Begin to make your circles smaller and smaller. Your arm will become a little more vertical throughout that process, until your arm is extended out above the socket. And then from here, you might find some circles, picturing your upper arm bone, massaging out the tissues nearby it. If that lever feels too long, you can always bring your fingertips to touch the tip of your shoulder. And then gently return your left hand to the mat. Right arm can come back underneath your ear, or you can prop your head up. Here, we're going to move this left leg. So the way that we'll do it is we'll plant the left foot atop, like the right foot or ankle, and then we'll bring the left knee up toward the left armpit. So we're kind of doing a side crunch motion here, and maybe the toes tap down in between repetitions. And again, you can point or flex your toes. Some people like to imagine holding a pencil under their toes, keeping that active of a squeeze. You can use momentum. And we might continue for 3, 2, 1. Step that left foot back behind you once again, pointing your knee toward the front edge of the mat, maybe getting a little bit of a stretch. And we'll roll to the back side of our bodies. From here, from here, hover your knees above your hips and bring your hands behind your head. Again, press head into hands, hands into head. And this will be kind of like a crunch. So we'll round up, drawing elbows toward knees, and then we'll lower back down any amount. In and down, in and down. Keep that resistance of head into hand the entire time. You might continue this for 3, 2, 1. Gently lower onto your back. Extend your left arm up ahead, and then roll to your left side. I'm going to flip around just so that you can still see, if that would be helpful, but you don't have to. And then we'll start the same over here. So plant the right toes as far behind you as you can. Reach out of that knee, maybe getting a little stretch on the front side of that leg. And then step the foot to be more comfortable. This time we'll be lifting the left leg first. Drawing it toward midline and away, toward and away. Finding your rhythm, your balance. Notice your breath here. Notice if there are adjustments you can make for ease. And then if you'd like to add in your right arm, wait till your left leg is lowered, open your right arm back, and then we'll bring both toward midline and away, toward and away. Finding again your rhythm here. At the same time, keeping your right foot in the left side of your body, heavy toward the mat. That visualization might help with balance and with isolating this movement. And you might continue this movement for 3, 2, 1. Gently lower that leg. Extend your left arm out at a T in front of you. Lower your right leg atop left, right hand atop left. Reach your fingertips past and then keep your fingertips in contact with the ground as you open back behind you and all the way around. This time we know that we're eventually going to grow heavy in the left side of the body. So you might right now just notice how much your body is moving in order to facilitate this movement. This is what happens all day long. Grabbing something off the shelf, it's not just our arm grabbing the thing, it's our whole body helping out. And so we're going to take a moment to isolate. Grow really heavy in your left side of your body, noticing how that impacts this movement of your arm. Noticing how your circles change. And then from here, we can get a little bit smaller in diameter with our circles. Bringing arm a little bit more vertical. Once your arm is extended out, use the upper arm bone to massage out the softer tissues surrounding that socket. You can always shorten the lever. And then we'll lower the right hand down. Bring left arm or hand back beneath the left ear. And then from here, the bottom of the right foot lands on top of the left foot. And we'll do that side crunch up with the right knee. Again, grow heavy through your left side body. Use momentum or don't. Point the toes or flex them or hold a pencil with your toes. We might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Gently lower that right set of toes behind you. Point through your knee again, finding that stretch. Maybe moving your hips a bit more forward. And as you're ready, you can roll back onto the back side of your body. Take a moment here in constructive rest, feet wide, knees toward one another. Settle into what feels like a good place for you. Feel your radiant breath expanding in every direction. And if you're interested in finding some more movement, this time it might be nice to use that blanket and slide it beneath your hips. We don't want it under the low back. We really want it to be like under the pelvic girdle so that your sit bones are landed on it, your sacrum is landed on it. And then from here, hands can come back up overhead, tented fingers, elbows towards the ceiling. And we can float the legs up, maybe taking a moment to point and flex the toes. It can feel really nice to stay right here with this form. If you want to, the next progression would be to bring the hands beneath the head, lift up the head again, find that resistance. And then we're gonna go legs away, straight, and then legs toward arms, away and toward. Keep the inside edges of your legs touching one another. You can always add a bend into the legs or change how far they move in order to find what supports you. And this can be a nice one to exhale on the curl inward, inhale on the extension outward. You might continue for 3, 2, and 1. Release your head back down. Keep your legs up above your hips. Fingers tent above your head, elbows towards ceiling. In this one, we're going to lower the right leg toward the mat and then swap. So we're doing these kind of scissor kick movements. The kick comes from the main hip joint as opposed to the knees. And the legs can be as straight or as bent as you want them to be. And you might notice here, this is sometimes a place where we become aware of little noises within our hips. You might experiment with adjusting the motion so that those noises come to a stop. Staying within the realm of silence, of quiet. You might also choose to befriend that noise and let it happen as you move. If you would like to use the arms here, we'll let them float above the mat and we'll act as though they're attached to our legs, almost marionette style. So when the left leg moves, the left arm moves, and so on. And then from here, if you want to add in the head movement, you can roll your head to look over the top arm. Another option for the arms, which sometimes messes with the brain a bit, it can be nice to stop the arms for a moment, bringing your fingertips back to the mat, and then floating them, would be to move opposite arm with leg. So that we're doing almost almost like cross-country ski style. And again, the head can roll over the top arm. And you might continue this for 3, 2, and 1. Gently release your feet to the mat, knees falling toward one another. Soften on your exhale. Notice where you feel sensation in your body here, where you feel your breath. And if it is of interest to you to find some more movement, we're going to focus on the arms a little bit more. So feet can stay planted is one option. Another option for this one would be to bring the legs up over the hips and then let them fall wide. And that can feel a little intense, so you can always alternate bringing your legs up toward one another and then letting them fall wide again. Maybe finding that movement to prime not just those muscle groups, but the nervous system to staying in that form. And if it feels of interest to let the legs stay wide, you can keep a generous bend in your knees. We'll bring arms out to the side, holding thumb against index fingernail and fingers face down. And then we'll bring both hands up overhead, aligning those circles, and then down, up and down. Finding your rhythm here, allowing the back of your pelvis, the back of your shoulders, the back of your head to become very heavy here. And you can really reach out of those 3 fingers that are extended, spreading them apart and reaching out of them. And this might get into what we would call nerve flossing. If you feel any kind of tingly stretching sensation, that would be your nerves. And nerve flossing is a pretty good thing to do. Wherever you are, you might remain there for 3, 2, and 1. Release your hands down, bend your knees and draw your knees toward each other, maybe hugging in toward the chest for a moment. For the next portion of arm movement, you can again find your feet in constructive rest form, which, by the way, is the only form that fully guarantees that the psoas muscle, which is, for anyone who hunts, that's our tenderloins, but it's the only muscle that connects the spine to the pelvis, so the top half of your body to the bottom half of your body. So this can be a really nice place to land. If you were liking having your legs up, you can extend them up straight or bring them out to the sides again. This time we'll have the backs of the hands on the mat. We'll bring the right hand up first, and then the left hand circle finds it. And then back of hand for the right hand comes down, and then up and down. So we're kind of moving one hand at a time. We're not kind of moving, we are. I like to think of those little desk toys that were popular in like the 90s, where you'd hit one ball and it would shoot off to the side and then hit into the other balls, and the single ball from the other side would shoot off. And it might feel of interest here to roll your head following whatever hand is in motion. Down to the side, through center, down to the side, through center, and so on. You might continue this for 3, 2, 1. Again, ease out of whatever form you found yourself in. Let's all land in constructive rest form and remove the blanket if you have it beneath your hips. Take a moment with hands overhead, knees knocked in toward one another. Find that radiant breath. And if you're interested in a final series of movements, what we'll do is rock the legs a little bit. You can have your hands down by your hips to kind of aid in that movement. And then rock all the way up to a seat. From here, we're going to make our way over into a tabletop-esque form. And we'll shift hips back toward heels, finding child's form, but looking toward the front edge of the mat, head lifted. And then lift forward, rocking up and forward, landing the pelvis down into a cobra form. And then press into your hands and rock back. Eyes gaze toward the front edge of the mat the entire time. And you might match your breath with this movement in some way. And you can speed it up or slow it down. And you might continue this for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's all sit back on our heels, heads up. Draw your shoulders back toward one another. And then melt them onto the backside of your body. Right hand can come across to the left shoulder. Find that space partway along your shoulder, maybe just over the crest of it, where you can press into your muscle and feel some response. You might feel a little bit intense, but maybe as you soften your shoulders down, you feel some release with it as well. Gently ease off of that pressure. Crawl your fingers to the base of your left ear and find that band of muscle that runs all the way down to your collarbone. Maybe take some time massaging it. And then when you feel ready, release your right hand down. Take a breath or two to notice any difference between left and right side. And then your left hand can come across to your right shoulder. Again, finding that point where you can pressure into. Might help to draw your shoulder down from your ear. And gently ease up on the pressure. Move your fingers to the base of your right ear and massage down that band of muscle. And when you feel ready, return your left hand down to your leg. From here, the invitation is to move into an extra comfortable Shavasana. I'm going to guide us through a meditation, and you might enjoy bringing the legs up a wall for this, or using your folded blanket as some support in some way. I often like to fold my blanket and lay it across my low belly for some added weight. Wherever you land yourself, take a few moments to wiggle, to find some adjustments. Noticing if there's anything you can do to be just a little more comfortable. Playing with your arm positioning, working your shoulders maybe a little more under your back so they lie a little bit flatter. Wherever you found yourself, as I guide us through this meditation, you're welcome to take or leave any pieces of it, knowing your priority is always to remain present with yourself in whatever way feels best. As you settle in here, you might take a moment to squeeze your toes or your fists, maybe squeeze your jaw. And then on an exhale, melt all of that. Feel your energy settle into all of the points of contact you have with the mat beneath you. Might feel nice to let your lips crack open, your jaw soften. Notice where within yourself you feel the most stillness. It might feel of service to picture a high mountain lake. You're the only person at this lake. As you look around, you see ripples on the surface from the wind. As you step toward the water's edge, you see it lapping at your feet. Again, movement on the surface of this water. As you step deeper into the water, you feel that it gets cooler. You perhaps notice that it gets darker the deeper it gets. You can picture at the very center of this lake, at its deepest point, what it might look like. Darkness, stillness. Every once in a while, little flecks of dirt, of sand that catch bits of light glittering past in an otherwise still environment. And on the surface, the wind still creates ripples and waves. But down at its deepest center, there is always this stillness. There is always this composure. Where within yourself is this true too? If you are the lake, where is your still center? Can you step into those waters? Can you settle into those depths? You might bring your hand or both hands to that place that feels like that depth, that stillness within you. Floating them on the surface above, resting them on the outer portion of your body, knowing that that stillness lies below. Your breath can be like the wind. And as it comes deeper and softer, maybe some of the dust gets to settle. Maybe even the surface of the water grows a bit more still. As we prepare to gradually ease away from this moment, Allow yourself one more time to turn to that stillness, to feel where it is within you, to remember that it is always here beneath the surface. You might begin to gently step away from it. That might include changing your breath or introducing any other movement into your body. Allow this to be very gentle, very subtle. You might allow these movements to gently progress, growing just a little bit bigger. You know you're going to make your way to a seat, but is there a way to remain fully present, still maybe in that slightly meditative state as you move through every step of that process? Once you arrive, give yourself a breath or two to adjust to being head up. On an inhale, arms can sweep out wide, palms touching overhead. Let's exhale, hands through heart center. Might we continue to actively love ourselves by being who we are? Might we remember that stillness that exists always within us? Might we turn to it in moments of need? Namaste.